such good shit! Hey, Mark Rodriguez here. You're back with the Diving Cutter podcast. We talk all kinds of wrestling things and occasionally have some guests. And with me today is Jack Knives.
What's up, everybody? It's me again.
Yep, and also long overdue first appearance of our very own Jupi.
Konnichiwa, minasan.
And today, for a very, very special going blast of the past type episode here, we've got the Retro Rocker, we've got the God of Thunder, we've got Rikki Roxx in the house.
Welcome to the Rock Show, ladies and gentlemen, cats and kittens. We're here to rock out tonight with the God of Thunder, Retro Rocker on the Diving Cutter podcast.
There we go. So yes, we got a couple of questions. Because it looks like you've been going into this for quite a while. Looks like you've kind of rubbed elbows with a lot of particular names, and you're also on a bit of a comeback now after like a 2 to 3 year absence, right?
Not entirely absent, but I'm perpetually in comeback mode the last couple of years. It's been lots of ups and downs, strikes and gutters, but you're right. I've been around for a while, and I've definitely been anointed by greatness. I've been blessed to rub shoulders and elbows with just about anybody you've ever heard of in the business. So I've been wrestling for just over 10 years. August 6th, 2010 was my first professional match against, it was a six-man tag actually, and the main opponent was Joey Janela, oddly enough. But I was training for about a year before that, and I was following the company that broke me in. It's now defunct, but it was National Wrestling Superstars was the name of it. Sort of an offshoot remnant of the old NWA New Jersey, which anybody who's been following, and they know back to like the mid-90s when Dan Severn and Candido and guys like that had the NWA belt. NWA Jersey was pretty much kind of carrying the NWA banner for most of the 90s until the early 2000s. So, stuff happens, and then, people move around. So this company, National Wrestling Superstars, they were like one of the remnants of NWA New Jersey, and a lot of the same talent was involved. And so I just sort of gravitated towards them, and we can get in a little bit more about that later. I don't want to take too long on one question. But so I started following that company in 2008. I started training with them in 2009, and I had my first match in 2010. And been rocking and rolling ever since. Former tag team champion, never beaten for the titles, undefeated in the Carolinas. Don't forget to ask me about that. And, I'm one of those guys, to be perfectly honest, that maybe not a lot of people have heard of, but most of the guys you've heard of have heard of me. Let's put it like that.
That's pretty cool. So we don't like jump all over each other. We're all going to kind of take turns here and there with a question or two each here and there, so we don't, and also to kind of avoid repeating the same question once or twice or anything. I guess I kind of sort of got there first. You guys want to start off with a question?
Oh, you go first, Jupi. You go.
Okay. So, Rikki, nice to hear from you.
Yeah, it's finally great to put some voices to words on screen. I think I've been talking to some of you guys for like 15 years, maybe more, in different venues, but this is the first time I'm hearing voices, so that's pretty cool.
Alrighty, so my question is, if you could pick any promotion to work for, or even just as a one-off thing, or just to join in, which one would you want to join and why?
Wow. Oh, man. Oh, wow. Because,
it could even be a promotion that's maybe not around anymore. So anything, just yours to go. So it could be something current or something not even around anymore. Just why would you want to join?
Let's make it a little broader then. It sounds like we got a lot of open field there, so why don't we make it a little broader? Why don't we say that basically you're kind of asking me if I had my pick of a match or a scenario, if I could do anything one time, where would it be? Because that might be a little bit easier for me to answer. Because that's a really tough question. But if I could have one moment, maybe if I could refine your question a little bit, because God, that is a tough question.
Okay, I will change it. It'll be okay to change that. All right, so if you can Well, pretty much what you just said.
Because like there's so many things I would love to do. There's so many things I would love to do. Like, I mean, I would love, if I could do anything in the business, I would want to be involved in an angle with, or a match or anything at all with Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania on the grand stage if I could have one moment of business. That's never going to happen, but that would be my one thing. More realistically, and things that could maybe happen, I would love to have at least one match, I would say, in AEW because a lot of my buddies are there, and you could pick any one of them, and I know it would be a great match. So if I could, so I'll give two answers to one very, very, very good but very complicated question. So if I could have one moment, it would be Hogan at WrestleMania. Never going to happen. But if I could do something more realistically, I'd love to do a pop-in on AEW. That seems more manageable, not necessarily realistic, but I know a lot of people there. So that would even at least be feasible, and it would probably be a lot of fun.
The Casino Battle Royale, like, oh my God, what is Rikki Roxx doing here? You know.
You know who'd say that? Joey Janela. But we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of guys there, so you could pick any of them. I've wrestled QT Marshall. Love him. I'm so proud to see him where he's at. I was just to kill time, I was watching the tag match with me and Jersey Kid against QT Marshall and Johnny Knockout. Well, I was still really green and on the way up at that point, but he took good care of me. I never, nothing felt off. He's great. Matt Sells, I've wrestled him, was great. I've wrestled Joey, was great. I haven't wrestled Sonny Kiss, but we saw each other every 2 weeks for months and months and months. Phenomenal. Can't say enough good things. So, like, that would at this moment in time, if I could book it tomorrow, that's what I would do. I'd pop in at AEW and just give me anything. But I'm not saying that would happen. I'm just saying that's what I would do.
Well, I'm just saying, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. I'm just saying they just announced that Cody is accepting all challengers for the belt, even if they're not signed with AEW. So.
Big hint.
Yeah, might have to make a few phone calls, call in a couple favors. I got dirt on half of them guys. I got real dirt on half of them guys, brother.
The jersey's coming out.
I just imagine Joey Janela on commentary just saying, what's Rikki Roxx doing here? He still owes me $5. No, I'm just...
Oh, it might be something like that. No, actually, a matter of fact, that's pretty much happened. And it would probably be more like, who the fuck booked Rikki Roxx? Would be exactly what he would say. Oh my God. Real quick funny story. He actually did commentary on one of my matches. The worst match I've ever had in my life. I'm not going to name the names. I'm just going to say. It was in Delaware for Funkified Wrestling Federation. Love them. Can't say enough good things about them. They had me teaming up with this kid who was super duper green against these two guys. And it just, some things don't work. My partner, it was his first ever match, and he was really, really terrified. Like, he didn't want to get hurt, so, like, he literally crumpled in a ball in the middle of the ring. And it was just, we couldn't work with him. We couldn't work around it. And then all of a sudden I hear in the corner, I hear Joey hollering at the top of his lungs because I think he was working above me on the card. But so anyway, I look over in the corner of my eye, and Joey is sitting at the commentary table with David Adams. And he's screaming, this is the worst fucking match I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. Will you get these fucking jabronis out of here? And he started trying to get an end this match chant going. And it was terrible. I'm not saying he was wrong. I'm just saying I can't work under these conditions. So we got to the finish, and then this was a shoot. I just looked at my partner, and I literally just kicked him and grabbed him, and I hit my finish, and I legit just shot DDT'd him. I shoot DDT'd him in the middle of the fucking ring and left him there. And that was not supposed to happen. I was just so mad. And then Joey's like, that match sucked a dick, right? I was like, yes, I don't need you to tell me this, JoJo. I shouldn't tell you that. I used to always call him JoJo, just to kind of needle him a little bit. But yeah. So it's funny you'd even have a thing about him being on commentary and taking a piss out of me because he's already done that viciously. He's great at it. I love him, though. I do. Like I said, he was my first match, so God bless him.
So I guess that kind of leads into my question.
Yep.
So your style is very much, not just you, say you, Joey, the Young Bucks, certain wrestlers, even FTR to some extent. I've noticed that they're kind of following the pattern of the older 80s style wrestling, kind of like a revival of the 80s style of kind of more high-flying, but kind of pulled back high-flying 80s style. And I was just curious, like, do you think that there's kind of like a revival that is currently going through like the wrestling landscape of just this kind of reviving of 80s style just in general, or promo skills that maybe a lot of 90s wrestlers or probably early 2000s wrestlers just didn't quite connect with, as opposed to the 80s wrestlers where it was all about more characters and more flash? Like, do you think that could be a reason why there's so many that are like that?
1,000%. 1,000%. I haven't been everywhere, but I've worked with a lot of guys, and I've been called by a lot of people. And whenever I've ever been called by a promoter, and it does happen, some guys will tell you differently, but people do call me. I don't call them all the time. Anyway, so when they call me, it's usually the same story. We want to bring you in for either a cruiserweight spot or a tag team spot. We're trying to work this style or this angle where we're kind of taking it back, where we want it to be athletic like today, but we want to have psychology and characters that are more of like the 80s through the early 90s rather than the late 90s, early 2000s where it was more like just car crash. Like all the way up through the late, aughts, around 2007, 8, TNA even, they were doing a lot of stuff that was really exciting visually, but the psychology and the flow, there just wasn't any. And I'm not saying that as a knock. Like, I was a really huge TNA guy, but it really was total nonstop action to the point where even the good stuff gave you a headache because it was just coming at you 1,000 miles an hour. So a lot of those guys you talked about too, like Joey and the Bucks, and a lot of those guys who are working that style now, you got to remember they all trained essentially together, even if not in the same place. The thing a lot of people don't know about indie wrestling is that we often will go to seminars that are run by the same people, regardless of what part of the country it is. Like, we train whenever we can under people like Les Thatcher and Rip Rogers, and people come from all over the country to go to the world-famous Monster Factory, which I'll say it's got to be under the Performance Center. The Monster Factory has to be among, in my opinion, but I'd also say it's a fact, it's got to be one of the top 3 wrestling schools in the country, aside from the Performance Center, because we got to leave them out of the equation, right? So the Monster Factory, I've done seminars there. I did a tryout seminar with Gerald Briscoe once upon a time there. I've done seminars with Kevin Kelly there for promos and character work and how to present yourself. And, people come from all over the country to go to these Monster Factory seminars and learn from guys like Briscoe and X-Pac. And a lot of these guys really stress the psychology of wrestling and not just the moves and what you can do, but when you should do it, why it makes sense. That's why guys like Joey are wrestling Cody. Cody's been world champion and everything, and Joey can put on a match with Cody that will be presentable and believable and make you think, make you forget that, he's technically or would be considered an indie guy with this world champion guy. They can make it presentable and believable because they have the same psychology, even though one guy has trained longer and been around the world. This other guy, they're reading out of the same book. So it all kind of comes back around. A lot of us, even I'm amazed and impressed when I go to the factory and I talk to these kids, or I go anywhere, and there's these kids that, I'm 38 years old this year, but these kids that are like 22, 23, 25, they tell me they grew up watching NWA and Magnum TA, Tully Blanchard, but also the Rockers versus the Brainbusters and the Rockers versus the Heart Foundation, and some of them even, they're like 20 years old, but now with YouTube, they can go on and look up old Tiger Mask stuff. And it's really cool to me because I grew up watching all that stuff, but this new generation, they're doing what I'm always saying as, if you watch any of my promos, you'll always hear me talk about bringing old school back to the new school and making something better. And that's really what I'm seeing happening. Not necessarily always in the way the storylines are booked and things like that. I think that's kind of bullshit across the board. A lot of companies right now are having problems presenting angles that are compelling. But I think if you look at the work, you can see that there's a distinctive melding of like the 80s psychology with the cruiserweight style that got in fashion in the late 90s. And, it's like, it's nothing new. Everything's been done, but it's kind of a nice hybrid, I think. And I really like seeing that.
All right. So on the subject there of you growing up watching all these guys, were there any particular wrestlers that I guess inspired you or got you motivated to actually, not just watch it on TV, but actually become a like real wrestler and train and devote yourself and actually do it?
Train, say my prayers, and eat my vitamins. Yeah, there was Hulk Hogan, brother. He was the first thing I remember seeing on TV was Hulk Hogan wrestle the Iron Sheik in a steel cage match. I couldn't have been more than 2. And right there, I said, if I get a chance, this is what I'm going to do. If things line up and I ever get the opportunity, this is what I'm going to do. And there's many, many more people than that. But Hulk Hogan would be the reason why I wanted to lace him up. And I used to, as a kid, even as a kid, but then even into adulthood, I'm kind of agnostic, but I used to kneel and pray and say, please God, if I could just meet Hulk Hogan one time and tell him what he means to me as an inspiration. And I did get to do that, and that was pretty awesome. He's huge in real life, but I got to thank him and tell him that I wrestle and that he inspired me to do that. And he was like, that's cool, brother. And, can't say enough good things about that. There was a lot of other inspirations too, but he was the biggest one. The funny thing, and going back to your earlier question real quick, you kind of you put me in a little bit, and I get why, right? Visually, with me and Joey and the Bucks, there's a lot of flair similarities. We do some of the same moves, and we got similar kind of gear. The big thing up here is boot tassels. You'll see guys in the locker room fight. If you got more tassels than they do or whatever, that's a shoot, brother.
Oh, jeez.
But as far as the work goes, I'm the first one to always say, I can't and never could do what they do. Those guys started training at 14, 15, lying about their age to get on shows and stuff like that in states where it wasn't legal. I started training at 26. Which I don't like to brag about, but I'm kind of like the DP of the Indies in that respect. I started way too old, and everybody said, you ain't going to do it. But I did it, and one of the things I always did was I can't do what they can do. Joey can jump straight up in the air from the apron, land on the top rope, and not break his neck. I'd die, so I don't work like that. I always joke that I'm the world's worst cruiserweight because I keep my feet on the ground, brother. But if you watch the way I move, not so much the way I look, but the way I move and some of the moves I do, you'll see Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, Roddy Piper, Raven, a little bit of Bret Hart, and a little bit of Jeff Jarrett. Those are the guys. And, yeah, Chris Jericho, too. Those probably, if I could put it all in a blender, those guys really influenced me the most. You got to have them all because I take a little bit of each of them, and I put it into what I do. And I've gotten most of them, I've actually been able to say thank you, so. Or at least half of them. Half of them are with us, sadly.
What is the most gnarly injury you've seen in the ring?
Oh, God. Oh, man. Unfortunately, I would have to say, no. My chick's giving me notes. I've seen a few. I've seen a few bad ones. I saw a guy pretty much take it was sort of like a botched power bomb, and he fractured his ribs. That was kind of bad, but there was 2 stories that happened right in front of me. Both of them really bad. One of them funny, one of them not. So I'll tell you the not funny one first. One guy on the indies who he doesn't work anymore, but if you ask anybody up here about Mike Quest, or formerly Gavin Quest, he was like, they called him the Garden State God. He was phenomenal until injuries and such kind of took him out about 5 years ago or so. I just seen him at the factory a couple months ago. I love the brother, but he helped train me. He was one of the guys who broke me in, and he's a tough son of a bitch. And literally legit one of the toughest dudes I knew. And one night, they were doing a seesaw spot, you know, where you're hanging over the ropes and a guy drops a leg on you. And you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
For whatever reason, he wanted to do it to the outside. So when he got the leg dropped on him, his head hit the edge of the apron, and it cracked his skull open. I was working security that night in Manville. That was his hometown. And literally 2 feet from me, it was like, boom, and the blood just splattered everywhere immediately. And I was like, oh, my God. And not only is this my buddy, you know, but this was bad. You knew it was bad right away. So bitch he is, he grabs the back of his head, he rolls back in the ring, he gives the other guy a nod, ducks the line, he grabs the $1 Million Dream. He had this awesome finish he called the Vision Quest. He'd hook $1 Million Dream, and then he'd do a suplex, drop the guy on his head, roll through, and then pull back like a crossface until the guy tapped out. So to do that, of course, you have to land on your own head, which he's now gashed open. So he does that. There's a big blood puddle in the ring. Ref really quick, 1, 2, 3. And then he rolls out of the ring. I go to, like, see if he's okay. He just puts his arm up. Don't fucking touch me! And they rushed him right to the hospital. Like, literally, he ran out the back door. They got him to the hospital. He had to get surgery. I know that. He's fine, but, I was shook watching that. So that was the not funny
can't
story.
imagine.
Yeah, that
Sorry.
was the not funny story. No, it's good. No, it's because it's fine for you to be uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable watching it. It ain't ballet, kids. Luckily, thank God he was all right. Could have been worse. I don't know, if that was a direct factor in why he didn't wrestle too much longer after that, but I wouldn't doubt it. So anyway, that's a bad example. But then this other example can show you just how cool and how heroic certain situations can come off. This was year one. My first year, I didn't always wrestle. I would usually wrestle one night and then have the night off the next night and do security, depending on what town we were in. So I was always there, but sometimes I was just there to get beat up by the bad guys. But other times I'd work. So either way, they always took care of me. So I'm working security, and this dude, Shane O'Brien, the Jersey Cowboy, I forget who he's wrestling, but they're on the floor right in front of me. Shane comes off the top rope to the floor with a double axe. I've done it 100 times. It's the simplest, most basic thing. You've seen it every day. He lands flat foot 12 inches from me, and he winces, and his leg buckles. And right in front of me, he broke his ankle, doing like the easiest, most routine thing, And I knew immediately it was broke, and he sort of crumpled. And I kind of leaned over to check on him. He's like, I broke my fucking leg. So they get back in the ring, but here's the coolest thing. The guy he's working doesn't know he's hurt yet. So he goes to whip him into the ropes, and without even blinking, Shane just on one leg hopscotches. He's like, as they pass by, he just says, can't run, which the guy does a reversal. They just did another spot. Nobody knew the guy was hurt. They worked for like 2 more minutes on the broken leg, and then he rolled out of the ring. We got him to the back, ambulance, la-da-da-da-da. Funny postscript to the story. At the end of the night, we're breaking down the set. We're loading up the ring truck. All of a sudden, the back door flies open. Shane comes in on crutches with the giant fucking cast on his leg. He's like, where's Dapper? I want my fucking envelope. I broke his leg on this fucking show. I was like, holy shit, I didn't think you were coming back, man. He's like, yeah, I'm going to let him go home with my fucking money just because I'm in the hospital with a broken leg. He's paying me. So that's the funny story.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
I like that one.
I mean, still bad, but happy ending, right?
Yeah.
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 Michael Jordan wouldn't go shoot the free throw on the broken leg. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of cool how some of the wrestlers botches happen or whatever, and they're injured, and they're able to still kind of sort of carry on to finish the match. hopefully not as bad as a broken leg, but wow, I mean, there's been some instances when that's happened.
Wait, wasn't there the time where Vader's eye popped out? He just knocked it back, popped it back in, and went back and finished the match.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He got it decked by Dan Hansen, and it popped out of the socket. The eyeball popped out of the socket, and he just went boop, and he popped it right back, and he kept going with the match.
Yeah, they wrestled for like another 20 minutes. It was fantastic. Vader was a good guy, man. He was great. I worked under him in Manville once. Or was it Brick? Brick. It was Brick. Sorry about that. I worked the match before Vader and Brick once. Great guy. Teddy bear. Miss him.
Now, speaking of, here's a good question. Speaking of people that you've rubbed elbows with and all that, I do know from your photos and things like that that you're actually a big fan of Kevin Nash, Big Sexy, and
That's
yeah,
my spirit animal.
Yeah, my bro and I actually got to meet him a couple years ago, both him and Scott Hall and everything. And yeah, well, you know, it was a cool experience. They were pretty cool. We bought like little plastic things to like save their autographs. We were having trouble with one, and Hall gave an extra one to my friend there. But yeah, do you have any particular stories or any cool things, or you know, you had a couple of beers with them or anything like that?
Yes.
I'm glad you brought up the thing with Nash because I was going to add something about that, and I'm glad you did. I'm dying to hear this.
So same question though?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's a couple parts that I'm going to have to edit, unfortunately, just because I don't want anybody to get in trouble. Everything I'm saying is Bible truth, but you know who we're talking about. You know which two guys we're talking about. So I've met them both many times. Hall first, I met him at a convention before I was a worker. And unfortunately, you'll know, if you know your history, especially the history of Scott Hall, you'll know exactly what this convention was. So a little over 10 years ago, you might recall the whole story. New Jersey, Iron Sheik roast, Hall, bad weekend, ends up getting arrested at the store, at the liquor store bar, like 2 hours after the convention. I'm pretty sure you heard that story.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Like, he ended up getting in a bar fight in Jamesburg, which is the town I grew up in. It's the craziest thing. And so anyway, 2 hours before that, we're at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Monroe. And it was the annual Legends of the Ring convention, biggest wrestling convention in the Northeast. My buddy James Subassis helps run it. I've known him since 1995, probably even before that. And so Hall was one of the headliners. These things are great, man. If you ever get a chance to go, go. Because even when I still go as a worker just to say hello to everybody, it's just like, you know, it's great seeing everybody together. Hey, there's Marty Jannetty. There's, you know, superstar Billy Graham. It's like, and everybody's like old friends, you know. I'm always amazed who remembers me. But anyway, so we got the pictures with Hall, and as soon as we walk up to him, you know, he's sitting at the table. We give him the too sweet. We lean in. We give him a hug. He just kind of sniffs for a second. He's like, man, you guys fucking smell like dope. And we don't know what to say because, you know, it might have been true. But so then we do the picture. And, you know, he was in like, a lot of these conventions, there's the guys on the floor. I don't know if you've ever been to one, but there's the guys like on the floor at the vendor tables. And then there's the VIP tunnel where they got the tables set up for like the millionaires. So he was one of the VIP guys. So after that, we go back out on the main floor and mingle. I'd always end up hanging out at the bar with the guys afterwards because, again, you see guys a few times a year. You build relationships. So I'm hanging out at the bar talking to Marty Jannetty for like an hour. He's giving me his life story. I love Marty. Talk to him all the time on, you know, social media. Wrestled him or teamed with him the one time. You've probably seen. So we're just shooting shit, and we see Hall off in the corner by himself. And, you know, he was good all day. He was great all day. But then the day went on, and then things weren't so good anymore. And then, you know, eventually it got to the point where people would start going over to talk to him. Like my chick, you know, she turned to him and she took like a step towards him, and Marty Jannetty kind of intercepted her and like give her a big hug, like, I love you, girl, because he knew like nobody should go near Scott. So, and then we left because we had to go be somewhere else. And then like, turns out 10 minutes after we left, or right around the time we left. It might have even been right before we left. They made him, do the old 23 skidoo. They hauled him out. I think it was right before we left. But anyway, yeah, all this, like, next thing I know, an hour later, I'm reading on the internet he's in jail. I was like, what? I just saw the guy. So I'm very glad, though, that he's in a much better place now. Because, I mean, like I said, I've met Hall a bunch of times, and, I got nothing but good things to say about him. It's just at that point he was in a very dark time in his life. But, crazy story there. Funny story is I'm doing security one night, and him and Hall and X-Pac, I should say. Hall and X-Pac did a run-in on a show. They happened to be in town, and they were like, hey, let's show up at the NWS show. So they came in together, and I forget who was in the main event, but I think it was Low Life Louis Ramos.
Yeah.
So they're fighting. Hall takes a shot, and he falls down on the floor. And Hall's like kind of dazed for a second, and the guy starts heckling him, and he's like, you ain't going nowhere, buddy. And Hall just looks at him and he's like, fuck you, pal. I'm a huge star. I just thought that was funny. So he's great. Love him. Glad he's doing good. Now, Kev. Oh, my God. I love Kev to death. He is like one of my favorite people I've ever met in the business. Again, I'm always shocked when he remembers me if I ever bump into him or see him any place. Had dinner with him, had a couple beers with him. First impression of Kevin Nash tells you everything you got to know about the guy. We're in Delaware, and Delaware? I can never remember where I was, but anyway, I keep all that stuff written down. Wherever we were under orders to just kind of give him space. Don't pester him, don't heckle him, because he's probably the biggest star they ever brought in during that era. This would have been like 2012-ish, the first time. So he comes in, and they're like, give him space, don't bother him, don't pester him. We're all kind of tense, because we want to make a good impression. We don't want to annoy him or he won't come back. And then all of a sudden, as we're talking about him, door swings open, there he is. Bigger than you think. Bigger than you think he would be. Stands there in the doorway, bigger than the door. And everybody shuts up, and everybody just kind of looks at him, and nobody breathes. And he just kind of takes 2 steps in, drops his bag on the ground. So where's the guy got to go to get naked around here? And everybody just breathes and is like, okay, he's a dude. And then he starts just talking to somebody he knew about hockey, and it was like he was there all day. And then, like, he watched the guys' matches, and he was just bullshitting with everybody. You'd think he would be a big stuck-up kind of, he's a friggin' bazillionaire. But no, when you're, just hanging out with him, you're just hanging out with him. I got to spend almost a whole night with him in Brick the one time, just bullshitting, talking about, like, I try not to talk to him about wrestling because people always talk to him about wrestling, He likes to talk about sports, which I don't like to talk about, but I get him to talk about movies and stuff like that. Like, he told me about working on Secret of Use and Dead or Alive movie, Punisher, He doesn't, he sometimes I think he'd rather talk about that stuff because it's different. There's everybody, at least one guy in every locker room, so like, tell us about Shawn Michaels. So it's like, yeah, you don't want to bring that up, But another funny story, like, this is just funny because, again, it shows you what kind of dude he is and what kind of sense of humor. I'm in the bathroom getting ready for my match one night. Corey Havoc's in there with me. He's spiking his friggin' 10-foot mohawk, and I'm primping my mullet, right? And we're just talking, and we're going over plans for later and whatnot. We think it's just 2 of us in there, So it's like, yeah, I don't know about this, and oh, yeah, I don't know about that. And out of nowhere, you hear this voice coming from all directions like Oz, right? You know what I don't get about this fucking business? Like, guys always want to have a full-blown conversation when they're in the shitter.
I 100% agree with that.
Me and Havoc just look at each other like, holy shit, Kevin Nash is in the stall. Neither one of us talks because it's like so we're just sitting there for a second. And then he's like, you guys know what I'm saying, though, right? Yeah, we know what you're saying. We just washed our hands and got the fuck out of there. It's like, oh my god, that was awkward. And then, you know, one more real quick, because again, I could go all day. Like, he's a sweetheart, you know, but sometimes he's a little moody. We're in Brick, and I got to spend most of the night with him that time, and we're just chilling out, and it's intermission time. Apparently, and I don't know the full story. I'm sure there was a reason. I'm not trying to, you know, get any heat on him or anything. It's just what happened. Apparently, before the show, he went out at the table to do some signing and stuff, and somebody just gave him a hard time, or might have made a joke, or he wasn't in the mood for something. I don't know. This only happened one time. It happened in my favor, but anyway, people were kind of mad at me. So at intermission, I'm sitting there next to him. He's sitting in the chair, and we're in the middle of a conversation, and his agent, you know who you are, ESS, God bless you, brother. So Eric comes up, and he's like, Kev, you going to go do the 8x10s in the ring? No. I don't feel like it. And the guy, just the blood drains out of his face because Nash is the headliner and he's supposed to do the intermission, and he's just like, no, I'm not doing the intermission. Like, you gotta do the intermission. Kev's like, no, I don't. Those guys are rude out there, and I don't have to take it. He's like, you're kidding me, right? So Kev leans back in the chair, puts his hands behind his head, and turns to me. He's like, so anyway. and picks up right where he left off, basically telling the guy, get out of here. We're done talking. So the guy just basically went out there and had to tell everybody that Nash wasn't signing any more autographs. And he just talked to me for 15 minutes about, I asked him if Jamie Presley was still hot. And he's like, yeah, it was pretty fucking hot to me. She's awesome. You know, I know they were mad at him because, like, that screws the fans, you know, and it does. But, I mean, I'm sure he had a reason. I wasn't there for the whole thing. I was just like, oh, my God, he'd rather talk to me.
He does come across as kind of chill, in my opinion.
What's that?
He does come across as, like, kind of chill to me. I mean, based on what I've, like, heard from people who have actually met him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he's moody, but, you know, like, you hear that about a lot of guys. Like, Raven's another one. I love Scotty. You know, he was three people, I met them. Raven, Shane Douglas, and Eric Bischoff. And when I met them, I said, I've been waiting so long to tell you this, but you're one of my heroes. And each one of them says, wow, that kind of scares me, but thank you. And, you know, those are also people where you'll hear stories about, like, they're either the devil or they're, you know, shirt off their back. There's no middle ground, you know. And, you know, one time when first time I met Blue Meanie, because he was a trainer at the Monster Factory for a while. You might have seen the one video. He reffed one of my matches there, and I used to see, he went to high school with my cousin, Brian did. Blue Meanie, great guy. Yeah, it turns out after I started wrestling, my cousin was like, you know, Brian? I was in, like, geography class with Brian. I was like, that's Meanie. That's Blue Meanie. But first time I met him, I was like, I got to ask, what's Raven? You know, I met him, but what's he like hanging out with him? He's like, yeah, there's, you know, good Scotty and there's evil Scotty. It just depends on what day you get him, and that's pretty much everybody.
He seems like a very, Raven and certain wrestlers seem like they're very, very, kind of elusive. Like, they don't really want to be as open in their personal life as they are in their character.
You know, that you know if they're inviting you in, that you know if there's boundaries or not. You know, I've had Brian Knobs drunkenly say things to me that would get you kicked out of a church, but it's just Brian being Brian.
Right.
You know, he doesn't mean anything by it. It's just, you know, that's who he is, and, you know, but you know you're cool because he's talking to you that way. If you talk to him that way, it would be out of line. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I hear, what's his name is very similar to that. I want to say Stan Hansen, but I don't think it's Stan Hansen. But it's like one of the people from the 70s. They're very reclusive in public settings. But then you got like people like, say, like DDP, who he'll just come up to you and like, hey, pal, how's it going? And you're like, oh crap, DDP's saying hi to me. Okay.
He's the guy who's still on my list I haven't met yet, but I mean, I know pretty much everybody I know has met him, and they all say that he's just bigger than life, you know, and he genuinely cares for everybody on this earth, and he wants to do good, and, you know, I think he's really accomplished that, and hopefully I'll get a chance to meet him. I got to start doing DDP yoga. I keep putting it off, but I do love yoga. I just haven't upgraded yet to DDP yoga.
I mean, hey, he saved Jake the Snake. That's
one of the first guys I met. You know, he's awesome too. When I was a little kid, I met him.
So I kind of wanted to kind of go a little bit of a segue, if it's cool, from a little bit from wrestling into because I've been watching your YouTube channel and I've seen that you collect action figures and stuff, and I was just curious, like, as someone who collects, like, has a collection, because I collect stuff constantly, what do you as a collector kind of look like? Say you're like out on the prowl for like a thing, what specifically, like, do you look for in, like, something to put a part of your collection, or something that you're just like, oh, this is fun?
Ooh, well, there's, you know, many answers to that question too. You guys do great questions. Love it. I knew it was going to be cool because I listened to the other one this morning. I was listening to, but anyway, certain things are a must because I collect a lot of different stuff. I collect wrestling stuff. I collect comic book stuff. I collect movie stuff. Now, certain characters are a must. Like, I collect He-Man. You know, I don't collect everything, but if there's a He-Man figure, I'll probably buy it. Superman figure, I'll definitely buy it. Hulk Hogan figure, I'll definitely buy it, brother. You know, so there's certain things where it doesn't matter what it is, but if it's a Hulk Hogan figure, I gotta get it. As far as like what I like, I love. You know, I'm old school. You know, so I grew up with the little Kenner Hasbro stuff. The 4-inch scale with the squeeze their legs and they punch it kind of thing, or, you know, so I love that. But right now, I really like, I like a lot of what Mattel's doing. I don't collect it as religiously just because I'm still a big Jakks collector. But I like collections that have a wide range of characters. I like good scale. You know, I like when figures are kind of, you know, in scale to each other and they don't look crazy different. I love Jakks. I love their classic superstar stuff. It's my favorite wrestling line. But I hate how, like, their Scott Hall figures taller than their Nash, or their Paul Bearer figures taller than their Undertaker. It drives me nuts. But the faces are perfect, and that's why I collect them so much. I'm actually working on, like, right now I'm working on, like, 15 Jakks customs. Because I customize, too. I just started, really, like, 2 years ago. I don't have too much finished yet, but... so I look for stuff I might want to customize. That's another thing. You know, if I'll see something like, hey, I can maybe get something out of that. You know, but mostly, you know, wrestling stuff. If it's wrestling, superheroes, you know, anything like that, I'm probably interested. DC more than Marvel on the comic book side, though. I'm never a huge Marvel guy.
Thank you. I'm a huge...
Yeah, it's just Marvel, like, they've always had a better market representation, though. Like, even back when I was a kid, you could always find Marvel stuff on the shelves, but if you were a DC kid, you were beat. Like, it was Batman or nothing for the longest time. So now, I'm pretty forgiving of most of what they put out just because it was like, we're spoiled now. Even if they're not perfect, you can go to the store and buy any one of 100 Superman figures. In 1988, you couldn't do that. You had no Superman figures. It's crazy, but that was the truth.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, they couldn't even... there's a cartoon back in it was made in the early 2000s, but it was called Batman Brave and the Bold, and it was a great cartoon. And the final episode had a character, Batmite, and he could, like, magically turn anything anyone wanted to reality. And he basically was a anagram for, like, comic book fans because they're never satisfied. And throughout the whole episode, he keeps snapping his fingers, and he turns Batman into a different version. And, like, he's like, what if we turn you into the crazy, stupid action figure one with an unpredictable weapon? And he has, like, a giant cannon sticking out of his chest, and he's got a propeller. And then, like, Batman's, like, on this thing flying, and he's all like, this doesn't seem like something you would particularly use in any actual...
Did you actually, while we're on a topic of that show, did you ever play the video game for that, for the Wii? Because I thought that was pretty good.
It was a fun game.
I prefer a much more serious Batman just in general, so I wanted to not like that iteration because it has a lot more in common with, I guess, or at a surface it would seem like it's more in common with the Adam West show. But, you know, they did such a good job of representing the wider DC universe with that show that it's like you got to say it's good. It's not what I would have done, and it's not my favorite type of Batman show, but with what they were trying to do, they hit a home run on that. I'm looking at them right now on my shelf. I got, I think I'm missing like 2 seasons. Yeah.
I did a video on my channel where I basically explained that, and this is what I feel truthfully. When it comes to fandoms, everyone has a fandom of something, and just the fact that we all have something that we're a fandom does make us connected in some way. That we all appreciate something for our fandom. It could be the dumbest thing to someone else, but it could be like the greatest thing to us. And I think that's kind of one of the things that connects us all together.
You see a lot of that too. I mean, like, you know, everybody I talk to in the business, when we're in the locker room, everybody's like geeking out over something. Like, you know, you get these big buff guys and, I'll walk by and I have no idea what they're talking about, and it's like some anime. I don't really watch a lot, but it's like I'm familiar with some of the names or whatever. You know, you get these big tough guys that can punch through brick walls, and, you know, they're talking about anime or, you know, stuff like that, and it's cool, man, you know. Some people long for the days of, you know, a little bit more of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll thing, but I don't know, guys are living longer now, I think, so. It's my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I hear. A lot of people are a lot of the more old-fashioned people always bitch about that nowadays. Like, man, back in the day, everyone was talking about, like, getting laid and shit and doing drugs and crap, and now everyone here playing their video games in today's locker rooms and blah, 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 blah. Like,
I went on one road trip and it almost killed me. And it was a big reason why I mostly stay local. We talked a little bit about it before. If you want, I can go into it. But
yeah, I was gonna ask. There was a certain North Carolina road trip with the Jersey Kid and Black Wall Street.
The whole scenario. I mean, it was one of the longer videos, so you're forgiven. But that whole story is a book. Me and Kid, and before I say a word of this, I want to say, because, you know, he might listen to this and he knows, you know, we're not teaming anymore. But we recently reconnected and started talking again in real life. And, you know, his name was Randy. I love him. I love Jersey Kid. He is one of the reasons why I was able to do anything, because I pretty much stole his whole look from him when he was away one weekend. I just started dressing like him, and then the next week we're a tag team. I love Jersey Kid. He's a great guy. He's a way better wrestler than I am. Part of why we were so good was because, like, we did all the stuff the other one couldn't or wasn't the best at. Like, he wasn't a great promo guy, and he worked a more lucha style. If you saw a lot of our tag team matches, you'd see it was like a weird kind of hybrid where he'd do all the high-flying, fast-paced stuff, and I would do, like, the more grounded, you know, suplex, backbreaker, bulldog, stuff like that. So we complemented each other well. So I love Randy. I love Jersey Kid. The time when we were teaming up was definitely one of the best periods of my whole career, that 2-year run. And if we could do it again tomorrow, I would do it again tomorrow. But this one North Carolina road trip almost killed me. So one night, he calls me up like midnight or something, and he's like, I got 3 shows coming up down in North Carolina in December. We're going to do 3 shows in 2 days. And we're going to head back up. We're going to head down Friday night. We're going to work the first show Saturday night. We're going to finish up Sunday morning, and then you're going to drive back or something like that. I remember I had a staff meeting at my shoot job. I was a personal trainer at the time for 10 years until the stupid pandemic shut the whole business down and they lost the place. But anyway, so my boss was pissed because like, you're going away all weekend. We got a meeting on Sunday. You better be back in time for the meeting. So I almost died and almost lost my job on this road trip.
Oh, jeez.
So I says, boss, I promise you I'll make the meeting. I swear. Because we timed it all out to the letter, right? It's like, this is definitely exactly what's going to happen. So he lived in Virginia, I think. So I get out of work one night, and my girl and I immediately, as soon as I get out of work at 11 p.m., we go straight down to his house. We get to his house at like 3 in the morning, and he's living there with his family at the time. And it's like walking into the Axl Rose house. There's guitars and drums everywhere, you know. There's like people, looks like, you know, groupies left their bras hanging all over the place. It's awesome. And so we spent the night at his place. The next day, he's like, yeah, we got to get ready to go, but the problem is we got to wait for this one dude to get out of jail first. We're driving down with the guys we're going to wrestle, but we got to wait because this one guy's got to get out of jail.
No, what?
So until he gets out of jail, we can't leave. They're like, are you serious? Like, nah. So we're hanging out. We're waiting. We start playing Smash Brothers for a while. We get to call the guys out. So if you saw the tape, you know there's 3 of them, 2 of us. There was supposed to be another guy, I think, but he didn't show. I don't remember the whole thing. We pile in Kid's Blazer. This kid was driving. The Black Wall Street dudes were in the front. The 3 of them. Me and my girl were in the backpack. They were already pissed at me and Kid because you may or may not know that sometimes guys like to get themselves like a local girlfriend when they're out of town. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, the ring rats.
I mean, you know. So the guy's like, dude, why you bring your girl on a road trip? Now we can't pick up no rats. My girl, she had to duck out for a second, but she loves this part of the story. She's like, if you guys want to pick up chicks, I don't care. I've got my camera. You want me to videotape it? I'll videotape it. I don't care. You don't got to not have fun just because I'm here. What, you think because I'm a girl I don't know how to party? It's like, damn.
I like her.
That's a keeper.
I like her.
Yeah, 20 years. Some of the fans didn't like that, but we'll come back to that. But yeah, I got yelled at once for hugging my girl at a show. But anyway, so one story at a time, right? So long story short, they didn't pick up any girls, but on this particular excursion. Didn't have time for it, as it turned out. So we're driving around all day and all night. We get to the show we were supposed to be booked at as it's ending. And because we couldn't find a place or something. But we at least got to say hello to the boys and everything like that. We go, okay, we got 2 shows tomorrow. As we're leaving, we find out the morning show got canceled. So in 3 shows in 2 days, now we're down to 1 show. And obviously at this point, nobody's making any money. You know what I'm saying? We're just doing this for the miles and the experience at this point. You feel me?
Yeah.
So we go down there. We hung out at this flea market all morning since the show got canceled. It is what it is. Had a good time there. But, we drive down. We get to the hotel. We finally get to the hotel. We didn't get to sleep in the hotel. So anyway, there's all of us, the 6 of us. Kid starts looking in his pockets or whatever. He's like, okay, so I'm going this way. You guys just wait. It's like, all right, fine. Me and my girl are sitting in the car for like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, waiting. And then Kid comes back out. He's like, all right, you guys see that sign over there by that door? Like, yeah. He's like, all right, you 2 go just hang out by that sign, and I'll be back in like 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay. So we got a case of White Castle. We got a case of beer. We got like sleeping bag, blankets, and everything. And we're standing under the exit sign in the emergency door, and my chick is like, we're getting snuck into this place, ain't we? I'm like, I got a bad feeling we are. Now, I had money on me the whole time, too. We could have just got the room straight, but he didn't ask me. So, bad enough, the whole ride down there, kids driving, there's smoke coming out the windows of the Blazer like it's the Cheech and Chong van. I find out this dude's 20 years old, and I'm in a state with no ID on me, and he's doing 110, and oh my God. So now I'm looking forward to relaxing at the fucking hotel after that whole thing, and now we get to the hotel, and I'm like, man, something don't smell right. So 5 minutes later, the door swings open. He's like, come on. So as we're running up the stairs, he drops the case of beer. Boom, bang, crash, smash. And like 8 bottles of beer shattering the fucking stairwell. And then the fucking desk manager, right? She's like, she comes running up. Hey, what the fuck y'all doing? She's like, what fucking floor are y'all on? He's like, we're on the 3rd floor. We're on the 5th floor, but slow him down a little bit, right? So we just dart up the fucking stairs. We lock ourselves in our room. We're like, holy shit. And he's perfectly chill. He's like, it's all good. We sit down. We start eating. 5 minutes later, knock on the door. Like something out of a cartoon, this big, giant, 6'8", fat Southern cop with his friggin' belly literally hanging over his pants. Nice guy, though, but seriously, it was like Boss Hall in the big boss man costume. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, that lady at the desk, she said y'all guys got to get the fuck out. He was nice about it. He's like, I know y'all, I heard the story. Y'all pro wrestlers trying to save a couple dollars on the road deal. That's fine, but she said y'all busting bottles and shit, and she said she ain't having it. I already tried to talk her down, but she said you got to go. I said, cut these boys a break. She said, fuck that. So I'm sorry. So we go to the lobby, and the Black Wall Street guys are standing there, and we're all just like, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know shit. And the manager's like, those three guys can stay. Them three gotta get the fuck out. And I was like, can we pay for the room? She's like, no, y'all was breaking bottles in my fucking place. I was like, fine. So me, kid, and my girl slept in the fucking blazer in the snow, while the other guys were like, fuck it, I'm staying in the room.
Oh, God.
That sucks.
A hell of an experience.
We get there and fucking we're sitting in the fucking blazer, and my girl, I think she was on a fucking rag or something, but she was screaming, this ain't fucking fun. This is supposed to be fun. And I was sleeping in a fucking truck. This is great. Like, we're just like, well, this is what happens. But, that's kind of why sometimes they get mad at you if you bring, certain people around, because they're not exposed to the business. They don't really, they're not prepared for some of the shit that happens. So she didn't take it too well. But, next day we wake up, they sneak us in the back door, we get some continental breakfast. We just rape them for their Cheerios and Fruit Loops and their free waffles. And then, kid, we're sitting in the Black Wall Street guy's room watching some stupid movie before we got to check out. And kid is like, holy shit, I still got my room key. Hang on a second. And he goes back. He's gone for 20 minutes. He takes his camcorder with him. He comes back 20 minutes later. He's like, dude, you guys got to see what was going on in that room, man. Good thing we didn't sleep there. And he hooks the camera up to the TV, and he shows us, it was like he flipped the whole room upside down. He flipped the TV stand, the dresser, the bed. He took the curtains off. Like, he took every piece of furniture in the room and flipped it upside down. He's narrating it on his camcorder. He's like, dude, this room must be haunted, man. There's like a poltergeist in here. Everything's upside down. And I'm like, you're nuts. He's like, fuck them. They kicked us out. So then we make it to the show. We're at this whole hotel ballroom, right? We're thinking 200 people. Turns out to be 30. Go figure. Somebody forgot to put up the flyer. So nobody's making no fucking money. We're thinking at least we could sell 8x10s, right? 30 people. And then they come up to us. They're like, so you guys are going on right after intermission, and you're going to do about 25 minutes. And I'd only ever done like 10.
Jeez.
What? Now I got to do 25 minutes with this guy? And I don't even know these guys, so the chemistry's not going to be great, right? So the match was what it was. It's fine, it was pretty good. But we just improv the whole thing. But out of all the matches on the show, those 30 people only really popped for us out of everybody else on the show. Like, we were nervous before we went out there. Like, they're not making any noise. And they just, down there, it's a little bit more about they like characters. They like a fight, but they like, these flashy Northeast kind of characters that come down like, those guys are rock stars, which was the point. So we had the good match. We get to the back. Kid's like, well, guys, I hate to tell you, but, all the money we were going to make has to go back into gas. So, I'm just going to hang on to it, I guess. And so nobody even touched the money. It wasn't that much anyway. I think the hot dog was bigger than the payoff, quite frankly. But it was a good experience in that respect. So we drive back all night long, straight shot, pull in the kid's driveway. Or no, we pulled into his development, I should say. He lived in a gated community, and we had just stopped at Quick Check, where he picked up some pixie sticks and Twizzlers. And then as soon as we pull into his development, we're going up a hill, and the car runs out of gas. A mile from his house, the car runs out of gas.
Mm.
I'm living in a fucking cartoon at this point. And this is why I love the guy. Because I was like, dude, you were just a Quick Check. He's like, yeah, I know, I bought candy. I was like, you shut up, bought gas!
Oh,
like, well, it's
no.
only a half mile. I thought I could make it home.
I'm sorry, I have a question now. How did your girlfriend take that one?
By this point, oh my God, let's just put it this way. There was a lot of it was pretty hazy inside that van, and that had everybody in a little bit better mood than they might have otherwise been. It was a little foggy in the van.
Yeah, we get
Oh,
it.
okay, so relax. I get it.
So-
I understand.
So everybody was maybe a little bit less pissed off than they might have been. But at that point, it was like, what next? Is the car going to blow up? So we sit there for a second, and then Kid is like, we're going to have to get out and push. And then two of the Black Wall Street guys are like, motherfucker, you go get out and push. So he gets out, he starts pushing up the thing, and he's pushing by himself, and like he keeps looking in the window like he's waiting for one of us to get out and help him, and everybody was just staring off into space pretending not to see him. I felt bad, but I was all the way in the back, so I couldn't get out anyway unless somebody else moved, and nobody was moving. So I was like, fuck it, I'm trapped. And it's like, and all three of those guys, never again with this guy, man. Shaking his head. And they start trying to put the heat on me. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I've never rode with him. I team with him in Jersey. I meet him at the show. Sometimes I meet him in his house. I've never gone on the road with him. He told me there was a plan. This was not the plan. So his mom picked us up. Like they lived literally a half mile away. She came and spotted us, a half tank of gas just to get home and everything. But I got to give it to the dark turn to the story, though, unfortunately. But I got to give it to Randy, though, because he kept his shit together. Like, everybody else was, a little bit edgy, but he was always chill. The night before we had to wrestle, like, while he's driving, he found out that his grandfather, who we had met, he lived there, he passed away. So he had every right to be in a shitty mood, but he never was. So I got to, as much as I'm kind of picking on him here, that whole weekend must have been a nightmare for him, too. But he never let it show. Like, he just laughed everything off, and I was like, God, I wish I could handle stuff with that kind of attitude. I still do, because he's still like that. He doesn't let anything really bother him. It just rolls off his back. And like I said, the story makes it sound like I'm kind of riding him and picking on him. I'm grateful for it because it was a great, story and a great experience. It just wasn't fun at the time. But these are the things that happen to you, and they're like, God, I'm going to be telling that story till the day I die.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so that's why I mostly stay local. It's like we did one other. We got even. We tried to do a show in Connecticut, and my car broke down. So we ended up, as soon as we got over the line into Connecticut, the car my girl was driving, our vehicle literally died. And, it was 105 degrees out. And, we're sitting there for 2 hours, take the tow truck. We were supposed to main event. We didn't even make the show. So, even Steven, one bad turn deserves another. It's just the shit that happens, but that's why I don't really go out of my way to go that far. It's, if it's too much of a burden and, there's a favor I might go out of, I do Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, more like 2-3 hours though. It's like, it just doesn't seem to work. Bad things pile up and it just never seems to happen. It's like fate's against me on the longer rides. But what are you going to do?
It's a hell of a story. And this week we covered a lot of stuff today. One thing I just have to know, because you brought it up. So how did you get in trouble for just hugging your wife at one of your shows? Was it like, was your character supposed to be, I guess, single or something? Or
Kinda, yeah. It was a part of that and part of just some fans have boundary issues. And it's just like that everywhere you go. Like, real quick story, when I met Hulk Hogan, it was at the sports bar. And a couple people there recognized me because I had wrestled in the same town not that long before, and I wrestled there again. And, this girl was real drunk, and she was kind of, getting a little bit touchy, and then, she grabbed me like she did the Iron Claw on my business, and my girl, like, almost stomped her in the friggin' face. We were leaving anyway, thank God, but they were at the show 2 weeks later, and her boyfriend came up to me and apologized and was like, dude, she was drunk, boundary issues, I know. Like, it's all good, homie, you just might want to talk to her. But that wasn't the story. I'm just saying some people were weird, some fans have, like, issues. So that's why, and I'm a dude, right? So I understand why a lot of the female wrestlers have a lot of weird issues, because it's got to be 10 times worse for them than it ever would be for somebody like me. But yeah, my character is sort of kind of like, ladies' man kind of. Some people think I'm handsome, I don't know. But there was this one girl in a certain town who was really into me. I didn't really know that at first. I thought she was just a lady, but then like we look out in the crowd one night and everybody's cracking up, and I'm like, what's so funny? It's like there's this chick in the front row who's like dressed exactly like you, with the tassels and the vest and the sunglasses and the whole thing. And it's like, holy shit, she is. And it's like, that's cool, but you don't know if that's all it is or if it's something more, right? Like, I'm sure you all read Mick Foley's first book, Have a Nice Day, and he talks about, like, this whole thing where he had, like, a fan down, I think it was in the Memphis area, maybe. I forget where, but it was, you know, she started calling herself, you know, Mrs. Cactus Jack Manson and implying they were married and things like that, you know, and that can be scary. It was really similar to that. I'm in intermission one night after my match, doing the business, selling out the world, you know, selling my gimmicks, and then my girl comes over to me, you know, she says, good match. I give her a hug and a kiss, don't think nothing of it. I hug and kiss half the women there, right? A week later, I show up for training before the show. The promoter pulls me aside. He's like, did you hug her? Pointing at my girl, he's like, did you hug her at intermission last week? Like, yeah. She said something. I said, thanks, and I give her a hug and a kiss. Why? He's like, ugh. And he pulls out a stack of paper from his back pocket. And it's this, like, 10-page letter that this person had written about how I'm hers and she's mine, and how dare I hug that other woman, and, you know, doesn't she know to keep her hands off of my retro rocker and all of this?
Oh, God.
It was like, it was long, too. I didn't read the whole thing, but I skimmed it, and I was like, are you serious? And it was like, all of a sudden, it wasn't cute anymore, you know? Because it was like, now we're getting a little bit into, you know, God, does this person, like, have a real issue going on, or what? Because this is not, like, harmless, you know? And there was no threats or anything, as far as I know, but it was like, she was saying she wasn't going to come to shows again if she saw something like that. And, you know, the promoter's like, look, you know, maybe you don't understand how some of these things work, but, you know, we do like to kind of present you a certain way, and if you're going to be hugging your girlfriend and kissing her in front of people, it kind of breaks the illusion. But what if I do it to everybody? And plus, then I'm asking permission. Because I'm like that with everybody anyway, you know, like all the chicks, you know, even a lot of the people are so chill once they get to know you. It's like, you know, I'll reach for the handshake and they'll pull me in for a hug and a kiss anyway. So I don't even think nothing of it. I just, you know, that's how I am with people. Rah, love you, bye. So it's like, it was just weird. I was like, I can't hug my girlfriend because some fan is going to get mad and things like that. I don't like, you know.
I guess they really want to keep the kayfabe alive.
I mean, you know, it seemed to not be as much of an issue after a while. It's, you know, eventually that person didn't show up anymore, and I don't know what happened there. It was a weird moment in time, you know. After a while, it stopped mattering, you know, because, you know, my girl, she was like part of the family, too. She recorded for all of us back in those days. 10 years ago, remember, not everybody had a cell phone camera, so you needed people on hand who could work a camera, and she went to school for that, so, you know, it was kind of like, you know, hey, bonus, you know, people used to, some of the same people who, you know, later on, maybe they would get annoyed that she was around, but when they were starting up, they'd be like, hey, could your girl record my match, because I don't have anybody with a camera, so she would just record for everybody. If you look on my channel and even her channel, there's tons of videos of people, and, you know, just doing favors, but ended up being part of the business. You know, she gets hired to shoot still for a few different companies, and, you know, she's good at it, and it's just, we look at it as, like, helping people out, you know. We're happy to help. They always tell you, like, ask how you can serve, right? But sometimes people get a little persnickety about it, like they think you're being presumptuous. It's like, hey, I can help you out with this. And they're like, we'll ask you. Like, okay, I'm just saying I'm available. I don't see why anybody would take issue with it, but some people do. You know, they feel like you're trying to put yourself over, but you're really just thinking about helping other people out is all it is.
I actually had another question.
Yeah.
What, for you personally, what was the most difficult part of getting into the industry?
The most difficult part? People aren't always who they say they are. I mean, a lot of times A lot of times people, most of them, I don't have a bad thing to say about anybody. And I don't know if anybody has anything bad to say about me. I just know that, stuff gets back to me. And a lot of people stir the pot. A lot of people like to tell tales. And, the hardest thing for me was that when I was first getting in the first couple of years, training wasn't really that difficult. I took to training pretty well. Meeting people. If you listen, people are happy to help you. So it's like if a person is struggling with how to grasp the basics of wrestling, it's really because they're not listening. Like, I always, my whole life, wanted to go to the Monster Factory and train and wrestle there because that's where all guys, Bam Bam Bigelow and the Giant and Raven and the Headbangers, and they all came through the factory. And if you hang out with good people, you get better. It's just the way it is. So if you listen and you're coachable, you get better. And a lot of people are willing to help you if you listen. But some people, they make it seem like they're kind of trying to help you, but maybe behind your back, maybe they're saying something to somebody about you, like, oh, don't use that guy, he's this, or, I'll tell you a story. Actually, this gives me a good opportunity to tell you, a story. I was, a tag team champion of the company. Me and Kid won the belts October 18th, I think, 2012, right around there. And the company got sold a few months later, so we never lost the belts, technically. But first belt I ever had, we were, they built us up for like a year with the tag team, so it wasn't like it happened overnight, And I heard, they're going to put the belts on you in a couple weeks, and people tell you everything. I'd have a closet full of belts if everybody who said they were going to give me a belt actually gave me a belt, or even ran the show. That's a shoot, brother. But so you hear things, you go, maybe. I'll get excited when it happens. That's where I'm at now. Like, we're going to do this with you. We're going to do this with you. All right, I'll get excited when it happens. So I heard, they're going to put you guys over for the tag belts in October. I said, that's great. I'll be there. That's all. I didn't want to come off like I expected it, or I didn't ask for it. I didn't make that decision. But all of a sudden, people start treating you a little bit differently. The first time that I actually made money at the merch table, guys actually started treating me a little bit differently. And a lot of guys who had always been like, Rikki Roxx, all of a sudden, I understand maybe, I don't want to say feel threatened or anything, but there's only so many spots and everybody wants to be the center of attention, right? So nobody likes it when they're secure in a spot, but all of a sudden, oh, this guy's coming up and I might have to put him over. And, there's always going to be egos and there's always going to be conflicts. So people started, not being quite so nice to me once the word got out that the belts were going to switch. And the guys who were going to drop it seemed fine. They never seemed like they had a hard time with it. And I loved working with them. I worked with them before that and I worked with them after that. And, the two dudes, Havoc and Rogers, they're two of my best opponents, love them, taught me more than I'll ever be able to thank them for. But other guys would start being like, you don't deserve it or whatever. And, we won the belts. It was a good match. And I'm happy, I'm proud, and like we all do, we win something big in this business. We go on the old social media machine. We go on our Twittery, Facey Spaces or whatever, and we post the pictures. And so I post the pictures of me and Jersey Kid with the belts. I'm like, we did it, and all of that. And then not even 10 minutes later, one of the other guys who trained me, who I won't say his name because he knows who he is, and he's been on TV, and, he's helped a lot of people, but this really rubbed me wrong because I still don't know why he bothered to do this. I just posted the pictures of me with the belts, and he's like, you didn't win anything. Some promoter gave you that. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean you're good. Doesn't mean you're important. Doesn't mean you matter. You got nothing to be proud of. Some guy just handed you a belt. So it's like, I just deleted the comment, but it stung because, again, he had never been like that with me, this guy. And I owe him a lot. I just saw him a couple months ago, and I was like, love you, brother, love you too. You know, it was weird, but in that moment, he just decided he had to cut me off at the knees. Like, I don't know if he was worried about me getting a big head or what. But then it started happening from other people too, you know, and it was really upsetting. As I'm sure you can imagine it might be, you know?
Yeah.
So it kind of took the air out of the balloon a little bit. And then people started coming back to me flat out and saying, you know, everybody's pissed at you. I'm like, what did I do? They're like, they're mad because you guys have the belts now and they feel like you don't deserve them. And I said to my one buddy, I was like, dude, we got Manville next week. I'll walk out there and I'll lay down if these guys care so much about me having a belt. If they're so mad about it, they can have it back. I won't even wrestle. I'll just lay down and you can have it. And that got back to the promoter, and he was like, don't let these guys get in your head. It's all bullshit anyway. He's like, the reason you got this belt is because I think that right now you guys are the guys that I want to run this angle with, and I know you can put on a good match, and I think you guys could have a good feud, and don't let these guys get in your head. And after that, everything was fine, but I needed to hear that, but it was just discouraging. So the hardest thing, if you ask me what the hardest thing about getting into the business is, it's that a lot of the same guys who push you on the way up and pat you on the ass on the way up, as soon as you start getting a little too much attention, there's always going to be one or two guys who are going to just cut you right off at the knees just because they don't want you to get ahead. And it's really unfortunate. I think it's a shitty thing to do to people because it really, you know, a lot of us have the attitude that it should still be fun. It's business. You got to take it seriously, but it should still be fun. Otherwise, why are we doing it? It damn sure ain't about the money. Not at this level. So if we're all in the same shit, it really makes more sense to me to push each other and help each other rather than cut each other off. But some people, they get off on negativity, so that's all I can say about that. And that's the worst thing. But luckily, those are a relative few. I could maybe name 3 people out of 1,000 that I've met who I would say are a little bit shady.
That's another thing that just came to mind. Is there, I guess, whenever one of you guys that been working at the Monster Factory for a couple of years and all that, whenever I guess one of you guys gets lucky and you get picked up by, you know, WWE or NXT or you know, TNA, WCW back in its day, whatever, is there some kind of, I guess, graduation, farewell party or something? Is there more animosity? Because now what you mentioned now with what happened when you got the tag team titles and everything, like let's say you do get a call and there's like, hey, word in the street is that Rikki Roxx got a spot in AEW as a, I guess, a cameo to challenge Cody for the belt. Like, would they be like gritting their teeth at you now, or?
I could tell you that there's 1,000 people on my Facebook in the business, and 995 of them would all say, that's awesome. And like 5 of them would be like, oh, you know, who'd you soft soap? That's 5 out of 1,000. You know, when I was, you know, 10 years ago, I cared a lot more then than I do now. And I'll be honest, you know, a lot of people, like you said earlier, I'm on the comeback trail. I've had a lot of time off. There are reasons for that. Mostly injuries. I spent the first 6 months last year, 2019, I couldn't even walk because I blew out my back. So that was something. The last few years, you know, I'm getting older, injuries pile up. So it's like, it's not from wrestling, it's just from life. But I start getting a little momentum and then I get hurt and I got to take time off. I got a bad neck. I had a neck fracture when I was 14, and I've had that neck fracture ever since. I got into the business with a fractured freaking neck, and I don't tell anybody because I don't want to be like, I don't want people, you know, looking at me like, oh, you know, sympathetically or whatever. I don't need it, you know. If I'm hurt, I'll take time off and I'll wrestle again. I am not at the level where I'm ever going to get signed to like WWE or anything. So whatever happens aside from that, I'm blessed if it happens, but I'm not sweating it if it don't, because the only thing I ever wanted to do was have a match, and I did that. And I said, okay, maybe I could win a match, and then I did that. Or maybe I could have a belt, and I did that. And every year I get to do something else that I wanted to do but didn't know if I ever could. So for me, it's about personal goals, not about what other people think my goals should be. Sometimes you hear if you're not trying to get to WrestleMania, you're in somebody's way and you don't need to be in this business. some of those three guys who don't like me say that a lot. Like, that's one of the reasons they don't like me. Like, you're taking up space. Like, well, move me. Because, but that's why I don't work a lot, is because there's a lot of places where I could maybe go, but, I'd rather not deal with the drama of certain individuals. Not that there would be, but, I kind of have anxiety like anybody else, and it's like, I'd rather just be in an environment where it's like the Monster Factory or like Brawl. They are taking a break now, but the Brawl Wrestling League. I like to go places where it's real laid back and it's like family. You said when people graduate, so to speak, from a place like Monster Factory to NXT, WWE, or Ring of Honor, I gotta say, 99.999% of people, it's like watching your kids grow up. That's how I always feel. I know guys like Matt Riddle still keep in touch with guys from the Monster Factory. Judas Young, great guy. LSG over in Ring of Honor, Shaheem Ali. I've been in the ring with all those guys, and I was in the ring with a couple of them just a couple months ago when I went back to the factory. And it's like, I gotta say, predominantly people want to see other guys do well. We all want to do well, and we all want that spot. But when somebody gets a spot, and they're a genuine person, even if you wish it was you, you still feel proud of them because it was like, dude, that was when I see Joey wrestling Cody on TV, it's like, dude, I pinned him my first match, and he didn't have to do that, and I know he was annoyed about it because he started training before me, so he's always been way ahead of me. And I think the one thing where we maybe had a little bit of a conflict is he was so much better than me that when we wrestled, he'd have to slow himself down to my level. And he's like at a level where he'd rather just go all out because he can, So I know that I wasn't always his favorite guy to work with because he'd have to work half speed, and that's annoying, But he did help me by doing that. So when I see him on TV, it's like, we're not kissing buddies or nothing, but that's my guy. That was my first match. That's my guy right there. He's tearing it up on TV with a former world champion. How can I not be happy about that? Or QT Marshall, or, like I said, any of those other guys from Riddle to, I call him Punishment Martinez still, but, Judas Young.
I remember him in Ring of Honor, Punishment Martinez.
Yes. When you see guys who you broke bread with and you bumped with and you've taken moves from and you've had dinner with and rode with and all this shit, it's like, even if you wish you were standing where they are, if you're anything like me, it's like watching your kids grow up or watching your brother go on to, graduate college or something. A lot of the guys still keep in touch, Like I said, for the factory, my comeback there back in November was they did every November they have this huge battle royal called Turkey Slam, and this year they upped it. They did 2 rings, 40 participants, men and women, and they were pulling guys in from all over, and they wanted it to be like a big homecoming show. Guys came out of retirement. Bull James was there. Kevin Matthews was there in the crowd. I saw Bull James. I hadn't been to the factory for 5 years. This is a story about how genuine people can be. If I only get the chance to tell one more story, this can be it because it just goes to show you how awesome this business can be. For most of the last 5 years, I didn't wrestle a whole lot, and I hadn't wrestled at the factory. I got hurt. There was some issues, and there was like a bit of a, we'll call you if we need you kind of thing, and I just kind of was like, best of luck. So in November, a buddy of mine was like, they're looking for guys, and I says, hey, do you think you could talk to Danny Cage? And he's like, Danny says, come on down. No heat, no past issues. It's all done. Just come on down. We'd love to see you. And I was still kind of nervous, but I reached out to Danny Cage, and I says, so we're good for Saturday? He's like, love you, brother. Can't wait to see you. I was like, holy shit, it's not a work. Because, somebody might be ribbing you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I first ran into you, not when I first ran into you, but over the years, whenever you talk about wrestling, you wouldn't just talk about it I guess how any of us would, watching on TV. You kept going with stories and details and stuff, I guess the psychology behind the business. And it never occurred to me earlier. I was asking myself, how does this guy know so much about how wrestling works or like the behind the scenes stuff of XYZ. I didn't know you were an actual wrestler. So it wasn't until you started mentioning about your big comeback and how you were excited. And I mean, I got excited too. I'm like, oh shit, it's kind of cool, man. Because these guys I talk to now, like Jack Knives and them, they got me to appreciate more of the indies too, not just, the big names or whatever. So I was excited when I heard you came back and you actually did it and you were in there and you're back in matches. That was pretty cool.
Well, I got to tell you, it was a great experience because until you get back into that environment, you don't know if you're going to be accepted. Because I'd heard so many things. Like, people were giving me, messages on Facebook. They're like, you got so much heat with this guy and that guy. And, half of it's lies and the other half is bullshit, but you never know. But I get to the factory. I haven't been there in 4.5 years. There's a big seminar going on. Bull James is in the ring. I know you know who he is.
Yeah.
And I open the door, and everybody just stops. And they look at me, and I'm getting choked up just telling the story. One guy goes, ladies and gentlemen, making his return to the world-famous Monster Factory, the God of Thunder, Rikki Roxx. And everybody burst into thunderous applause. Like, it was like, I'm not even one of their main guys. I was a fill-in guy, but it's just, you see these guys all the time. And, you do become friends. And it was like, I never left. And hugs all around. And Bull James sees me. He's like, oh, shit. Rikki Roxx is here. And Kevin Matthews, or KM from, Impact or whatever you know him as, he's there. He's like, Kev, Rikki Roxx is here. I know, bro. I just texted Janela. He's like, what the fuck? I thought Rikki Roxx was dead or some shit like that.
The God of Thunder has returned.
It was so awesome. And then, getting to do the Battle Royal was great because you got this, Shaheem Ali and Party Rock, Mark Cruz, and, the Monster Factory is a great place to be, man. I really love working there because, like I said, you can't help but get better. And they really, as far as everything I've experienced in the business, like there's a reason why so many of their guys go to Ring of Honor and WWE and everywhere else, because you might have seen this match I had with this kid, Nate Francis. There was this very first match, and he was better in his first match than most guys I wrestled were in their 50th. And they really just put that shine on you. And they teach you psychology. You said, being knowledgeable about the business. That's where it comes back to not just being about the moves and when to do them, but the factory, and they model it just like, the Performance Center does it. They have the same setup. They have promo class. They have guys like Kevin Kelly come in to teach guys how to talk and look good on the camera and where the hard cam is and all that shit. And it's like, there's so much more to the business and so much to being a performer than just knowing how to do moves. And that's where guys like Joey excel, guys like the Bucks. I actually, I think he has a little bit better handle on psychology, but I don't know. That's just my opinion. But, yeah, you can have all the tools, but only certain places you go will teach you how to put them together, like XYZ, and really make a polished performer out of you. And that's why I love that place so much. So to be invited back and to go back was fantastic, because if I was going to only ever wrestle one place, it's not even about big crowds or big money, because it's, it's a school, they don't hold a lot. It's not a big venue. It's just about being in an environment where everybody's good, everybody's motivated, everybody's having fun, and the only goal is get better. Whether there's 50 or 100 or nobody, it's just perform and get better. And I dig that the most.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had one more question, but this isn't my question. This is a question that was asked years ago, and I figured maybe since I got you here, I thought it'd be a fun way to end the podcast. So it's a question that Roddy Piper once asked Top Heel, and it was, Big John Studd, Andre the Giant, and Gene Okerlund are stuck in a well. Who do you say first?
Well, I mean, I'd probably have to save me and Gene just because the other two guys could climb the fuck out if they had to.
Good answer.
I mean,
it's a great question. I love it.
If it's about saving lives.
Well, they're all stuck in a well, so I don't know how much longer his life's going to be.
Well, Andre would dig his way out by standing on Big John Studd's head. But Gene, I think, might have a problem. So I'd probably save Gene because, good old Mean Gene, it was probably 5 o'clock somewhere, and that's how he got down there in the first fucking place.
And Andre, you just have to be like, Andre, get out. We have one. Okay, Rob.
He probably just went down there so he'd have a place to sleep without nobody bothering him. Start down there. And Big John Studd probably just followed him. Big John Studd probably just followed him down there because he was such, I'm just joking. The honky tonk man always used to joke about Big John Studd being such a, he'd walk in the locker room, it's like, if Andre's happy, everybody's happy. Honky's like, damn, John, why don't you just blow the guy?
That sounds like him. Sounds like honky tonk.
Oh my God! Don't get him started on Paul Heyman. I don't even think he ever worked for the guy.
He never did. He just hated him because of. I think Honky Tonk hated Paul Heyman solely because Jerry the King hated him and worked with him, and they're brothers. So
cousins.
Well, they're cousins. Cousins. That's right. I was thinking of Brian. What's his name? Grandmaster Sexy. I thought it was his dad for a second. I was like, wait a minute.
Wait. Who are cousins? Who's cousins now? What?
Honky Tonk
Man and Jerry the King Lawler.
What the fuck?
Yeah, they're cousins. But they don't get along either, though. They don't get along either because friggin' it goes all the way back down to Memphis. And if you watch the shoots, which if you go down the Honky Tonk Man shoot rabbit hole, you're going to be there for 2 years. I love it. It's always been great to me. Love the guy. Shared a couple locker rooms with him. But, he'll tell you, he's like, when I was down in Memphis working for Lawler, I got paid $995. Jerry came up to me and says, how'd you like getting your first $1,000 paycheck? I said, excuse me, you did not pay me $1,000. You paid me $995. And he looked at whatever lady he was married to, and he said, see, I told him he wouldn't appreciate it. It's like, it's just their family, but they don't get along. But, God, one night I'm in the, we're working in Edison at the street fair, and I'm in the truck. They converted the truck into the locker room, and I'm sitting there, and we actually had a tornado warning. Like, right after, there was 2 shows that day outside. After the first show, the sky turned black, opened up, and, it was a disaster. But they saved the second show. But we're sitting there, Honky Tonk Man's, shooting, and he just cuts this promo on Paul Heyman. And he's like, how the fuck you made $10 million fucking dollars working with Brock Lesnar? You still owe people money from 1998. Like, I'm not going to argue with that. I was just listening, I don't know who even asked him the question. He's like, fuck Paul Heyman. I love Wayne though. I love the Honky Tonk Man just because he's not necessarily that character, but he's always a character.
All right. Well, guys, we had a lot of fun here today, and I hope you guys enjoyed our special episode. And yeah, I think that we had so much fun. We might actually bring you back in another episode or so, man.
I'd love to come back, and I'd love to because by then I'll probably have a lot more to talk about. Because one question you guys didn't ask me is what's next. But I think you saw the promo, but your viewers might not, or listeners might not have seen the promo.
Yeah, you actually, tell them about your thing coming up in July.
So now, I'm not sure exactly what the state of the world is out there, but I know some of the veil's been lifted and people are going outside again a little bit. And I know there was some shows yesterday. A lot of my buddies from the factory and other promotions wrestled at a company called Titan Championship Wrestling that's local, and they got a lot of awesome guys like Titan Killer and Stan Styles and just tons and tons of awesome talent. Magnificent Mimi won their women's title last night, but that's not who I'm working with. It's just I got a lot of friends over there, and they just ran an awesome show, so I'm, making sure people are aware of that. But I'm going to be in action on July 11th at a secret location to be announced. Kind of excited. It could be Area 51. If it's at Dapper's house, I'm going to pop. That guy's got a nice pool. You guys might not get that, but some of the guys up here in Woodson might. But so it's July 11th, 4 p.m., secret location pay-per-view, Jay Cercio's Bitches, Belts, and Barbecue. There's going to be a lot of hot action on the card. There's going to be a hell-bent death match between Charlie Bonifer and Pete Corvus. Indie legend Magic's going to be there, and I'm going to be wrestling Johnny Chill, an up-and-comer with ECPW, promotion a lot of guys might have heard of. He recently wrestled Corey Dillinger for the TV title. Didn't win, but I liked what I saw, kind of. What I didn't like is that it looked like this kid just kind of bit my gimmick straight out of my bag. It's like, holy shit, did somebody, I better count my boot tassels there. So I don't know, I might have to school him a little bit on gimmick infringement. I guess we'll have to see what happens. But I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, if there's a perfect way to end this, do you have any message out there for your upcoming opponent on July 11th?
Well, when you're in the business as long as I have, you've seen a million guys come and go. And, he might be a star on the rise, but I've put more people out of this business than this kid's got hair on his chest. So, I'm impressed a little bit with what I've seen, but if he thinks he's just going to run right past me just because maybe getting a little bit streak of silver in the hair, he's got another thing coming because, I'm going to be in this business, despite what some people have been trying to say otherwise. I'm going to be in this business for as long as I feel like it, and I'm not going anywhere until I say so. So it's been 10 years. It'll be 40 more if that's what I figure I'm going to do. So if this kid's lucky, he'll come in the ring. If he's smart, he'll come in looking to learn a few things. And hopefully he will. He's going to learn something one way or the other. That much I can promise. How much learning and whether it's going in through his ears or through the middle of his face, it's either going to be one or the other. Just depends on what mood I'm in.
So there you go, guys. This is our the God of Thunder, the retro rocker, Rikki Roxx here, and we'll be bringing him back in future episodes. Yep, for maybe another interview, or maybe just shooting the shit too. We sometimes do predictions on big pay-per-views and stuff like that. So it'd be kind of cool to get your thoughts because you're more into business, and I mean, hey, you may get some all right based on in-ring psychology and everything, and booking and logic and all that.
I'd love that. The first thing I learned in this business wasn't even the moves. It's that you could watch wrestling, and I did. You could watch wrestling every day of your life for decades, and you are not going to know 1/10 about the wrestling business as a guy who's had one match. And that's the truth. And you don't learn that until you're in it. You can think you know everything, but until you are a trained, certified, bona fide, paid professional wrestler, you only know what we all want you to know. And that's the way it is. So I'd love to give some insight because, I got to say, I read some of what people say online and everything, and I got to laugh sometimes because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of keyboard warriors and armchair experts who think they know a lot. And, some of them know a little, but some of them are really, it's just kind of laughable. So I'd love to put a little bit of give some of my insights, and, if it can make you guys better and, give you some laughs, I'm all for it. I'm down, brother.
Hey, there we go. So it's Mark Rodriguez here signing off for now, and
I'm happy to entertain, and I'm happy to have an audience, and you guys have been great, and I look forward to catching you on the flip side next time.
All right.
For sure.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. God of Thunder, Rikki Roxx. Check it out on Bitches, Belts, and Barbecue, July 11th, 4 p.m. Details to come. Keep checking the Facey Space. I got shirts for sale. It's Rikki Roxx on Facebook, 2 Ks and an I. Triple X, no, it's 2. It's like Nikki 6, but Rikki Roxx. You know the deal. I got shirts for sale. Hit me up for the friend price on Facebook. And, if you got a problem with me, call me. If you don't have my number, you don't know me well enough to have a problem, baby.
All right. Yeah, and feel free to share this interview on all your social media, all your fans. Whatever we could do. If our podcast in any small way whatsoever kind of helps get your name out there more, then hey, that's cool.
Well, I love that, and it's all about promotion. It's all about people helping people. And, like I said, I've been quiet for a while, but now that I'm in good health and now that I'm hungry and now that I'm feeling better and healed up, I got a lot of unfinished business, and I'm looking forward to taking care of some of that unfinished business for sure. So right. I'm happy to let the world know that Rikki Roxx is back and he's available.
Good night, you guys. Y'all take care.
Have yourselves a great night now. If you can't be good, be bad, baby.